So good day to everyone. Our next lesson is about VAT on importation of goods. So we all know that importation refers to the purchase of goods or services by the Philippine residents from non-resident sellers. So it simply means that it is a transport of either goods or services from a foreign country to the Philippines. We have two kinds of importation. The first one, we have the importation of goods, and the second one is the importation of services, in which non-resident renders services to the businesses in the Philippines. And we will tackle it here because that importation of goods and services have two different kind of tax VAT. Now we have type of consumption tax on importation. The first one, VAT on importation, means for the import of goods. The second one, final withholding VAT for the purchase of services from non-residents. I think you had an idea already about the final withholding um, because we already have discussed this in the previous taxation lessons. However, in that lesson, it is an income tax, but here it is about a business tax. So VAT. Next. So the main focus of this video was to discuss the VAT on importation of goods, but we will give you a little insight on final withholding VAT, which is a VAT on services, importation of services. So comparison between the consumption tax on importation, VAT importation, and the final withholding VAT. So object consumption, we can see here that it in VAT on importation, goods ang object niya, and in final withholding VAT, services. Because we already told kanina that kapag VAT on importation, goods, at kapag services naman, ang VAT is final withholding. Imposed upon. So generally, the tax was imposed to the importers or the providers of foreign service providers or good providers. Now, we said here on VAT on importation, meron kasing rules sa VAT na when a foreign seller imports the goods, siya ang taxable. But if naman sinell niya or binenta niya ito, the tax will be imposed to the buyers. Now, statutory taxpayers. So, importers or buyers, then the final withholding VAT, resident purchaser of the service. So, yun yung, let's say, resident. Then the nature. So, VAT, it is a direct consumption tax, while sa final withholding VAT, it is an indirect business tax. Sabi natin dito, direct consumption tax. Why? Kasi yung importer yung tinatax dito. With the final withholding VAT, it is the importer. However, parang nai-pass yung burden sa nakaka-receive ng services. So, tax basis, saan ibinibase yung tax? So, landed cost, mamaya i-discuss natin what is a landed cost. And then sa final withholding VAT, of course, the contract price. Collecting agency, sa VAT on importation or goods, of course, Bureau of Customs, yan. And the final withholding VAT, we have the BIR. Timing of payment before withdrawal of goods, and the final withholding VAT after the month of payment. Maybe you're confused if why is the collecting agency for the VAT on importation is Bureau of Customs. So, based on my research, ang BIR is parang inutusan nito or parang party nito ang Bureau of Customs na siya ang magkukwenta ng tariffs sa importation of goods. So next, okay, generally from trade law na ang importation of goods and services in the Philippines are taxable 12%. However, meron tayong mga VAT exemption. So the first one here is the exempt of goods, the exempt goods. So, okay, I will just enumerate those exemption in importation. The first one, exempt goods. The second one, import by VAT exempt persons. The quasi importation, and then the exempt by treaty. So the first one is the importation of exempt goods. Certain goods considered basic necessities are not subject to the VAT on importation such as agricultural and marine food products in their original state. So kauna-unahang exemption in the importation VAT is the agricultural and marine food. Import exemption is limited to agricultural or marine food product in their original state or those which underwent simple processing. Goods that underwent advanced processing are vatable. So I'll give you an example sa marine and agriculture food. So the example of these ones are fruit, vegetable, and yung mga fish. They are exempt to VAT. Kasi yung mga goods na in original state, hindi siya vatable, exempt siya sa VAT. However, sabi rito, meron tayong simple processing and advanced processing. Simple processing are not vatable, and this includes yung mga freezing, broiling, and grinding for preservation lang ng mga goods. But if it went to advanced processing, these are already vatable. Kapag for example, we will import meat here in the Philippines from the foreign country, of course. Okay, then ang ginawa natin, yung meat, we freeze it. So, of course, para hindi siya masira. So, freeze natin siya, pinatigas natin siya, and pinackaging natin siya. So, is that vatable or not? It is not. It is exempt to VAT kasi nga it it undergone to a simple process only. Hindi nagbago. Nag-freeze lang siya, na-package lang siya, so walang bago doon. And the food is in original state. Other example is the advanced processing. Example is the meat also. We will import meat here. And then, ang ginawa natin, the meat, hinaluan ng iba't ibang ingredients, it was marinated, and then it was put on a container. It's a container. So, na-marinate siya, na-put siya sa container. Is it subject to VAT or not? It is subject to VAT because it is not in the original state already. The other agricultural naman na hindi kasali sa exemption, these are the importation of non-food agriculture and marine is subject to VAT. Example is the logs, the woods, the bamboos, the shells and corals for ornaments, and for the abaca, the forest products, non-fruit crops, and other animals considered as pet. So fertilizers, seeds, seedlings and fingerlings, fish, prawns, livestock, and poultry feeds, including ingredients used in the manufacture of finished feeds. So, ang exemption dito is intended for the production of food products for human consumption. Para siya sa fertilizer siya for human consumption, it is exempted to VAT. And if in special feed siya, it is already VAT taxable. Books and any newspaper, magazine, review, or bulletin which appears at regular intervals with fixed price for subscription and sale and which is not devoted principally to the publication of paid advertisement. So, we have here, okay, etong mga to daw, books and newspaper, magazines, review, or bulletins, those materials which are necessity for education and information are exempted to VAT. So yun lang po yung tatandaan natin. However, yung exemption is not extended to other school supplies such as chalk, board, markets, notebook, and papers. So those are VATables po already. The next one, we have the passengers or cargo vessels and aircrafts, including engine, equipment, and spare parts thereof for domestic or international transport. So these are already exempt due to the shortage of transport vehicles. Other exempt goods are the prescription drugs, medications for diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension, cancer, and mental illness. So exempt din yun sa VAT. Okay, next. We have the importation by VAT exempt person in which yung mga tao na to is kapag sila yung nag-import ng products, they are not VATable. So first, we have international shipping or air transport operators on their import of fuel, goods, and supplies. It is not meant for domestic consumption. Next, we have the cooperatives of direct farm inputs, machineries, and equipments, including spare parts thereof, to be used directly and exclusively in the production and processing of their produce or products. So, when we say cooperatives, these are the agriculture cooperatives. Ang sinasabi dito, cooperatives of direct farm inputs, they are exempt to VAT because yung mga i-import na goods ay gagamitin or mga machineries ay gagamitin for processing of human consumption here in the Philippines also. So next, peso locators on their import of goods. So, the importation, it is not taxable because of a national tax. So, ito considered situated na siya in a foreign country. And yung pag-produce ng goods is for the non-residents, not for the Filipinos. So, okay, so we have next is quasi-importation. The importation of personnel and household effect belonging to the residents of the Philippines returning from abroad and non-resident citizens coming to resettle in the Philippines. Okay, professionals, instruments and implements, wearing apparels, domestic animals. So, yan. The main point lang here is the importation of personal and household by those non-residents and residents na magre-resettle in the Philippines is not subject to tax because of a foreign consumption. It's either nagbayad na sila ng tax there, so hindi na itatax ulit dito, or it's either um, nagbayad na sila dito, dinila nila sa ibang bansa, tapos ibabalik lang nila dito yung mga belongings nila here in the Philippines, so it is not subject to tax. So note that when personal and household effects were purchased before, they were already subject to consumption taxes, kaya exemption sila. Okay, so we will have example. So A went to settle in the Philippines with personal effects such as watch, yung mga gamit, watch, laptops, etc. Ang tanong, is a personal thing subject to VAT? No, kasi it already purchased in the foreign country and it is, I think, it is a foreign consumption and subject already in tax in the foreign country. The exception only here is kapag nag-import sila ng goods where they already consume in the foreign country pero ang intention nila is to donate the goods, dun magiging taxable yung goods na iuwi nila here in the Philippines. For the next paragraph, dito sa professional instrument, so it may not be subject to tax because it is already a passed on consumption, so it is exempt to VAT. However, the exemption is limited to personal and household and professional instrument. Example, ang mag-import siya ng car. Is car VATable or not? It is, the car is VATable kasi nga sabi dito, the exemption is only limited to personal and household and professional instrument. Even though sabihin natin na gagamitin niya naman sa trabaho ang car, it is already VATable. Next, we have the importation which are exempt under special laws and international agreements. So we already know here kung bakit siya ma-exempt, of course, under the International Committee. Okay, Trade Law or RA 10963. So there shall be levied, assessed, and collected on every importation of goods, sorry, it was importation of goods, a value added tax which is the VAT, equivalent to 12% based on total value used by Bureau of Customs in determining tariff. It is Bureau of Customs, sorry again, custom duties plus excise tax if any. So I already said kanina na ang percentage ng VAT natin is 12% and it is based on the landed cost which is assessed by the Bureau of Customs, not the BIR. So, ang landed cost po, it compasses all the cost of importation incurred prior to the withdrawal of the goods from warehouse of BOC, which is the Bureau of Customs. Pag kasi dumating na yung goods from the foreign, diretso yan, pupunta yan sa warehouse ng Bureau of Customs, tapos i-assess na ni Bureau of Customs kung magkano nga ba yung tax na ipapataw dyan. And note this one na yung mga transaction cost after the withdrawal of goods in the Bureau of Customs, hindi na po siya kasali sa landed cost. So yun lang. Thank you for listening.